11,000 people searched for the same AI marketing tool last month, just in the US.
And almost none of them can find a straight answer to the only question that matters: is it worth the money?
Yeah, the tool is Blaze AI. It says it can replace your marketing team or give you one if you don't have one for just $65 a month.
Yep. And that's a pretty big promise. So today we're not going to read the sales page. We have signed up. We're going to train it on a real business, and we're going to make it produce a week of social posts, a blog article, and an email, a full weekly campaign live.
And we're not going to stop there. We're going to do something nobody else does. We're running the exact same brief through a free AI assistant with one good prompt and putting them side by side.
Yep. So that by the end of this hour, you'll know exactly whether Blaze belongs in your business or whether you already have everything you need.
Hey, Jesse, this is the Shift AI show presented by Aweber.
That's still one of my favorite ones.
Yeah, I missed those stingers, man. I've been out for a week and a half.
It's, and I apologize. I've been sleeping on the job. I haven't created a new show specific stinger in a little while, and I'm frankly embarrassed. Today would have been a great one. Blaze AI's like branding is kind of like comic book style. 100% could have done that.
Man, we should 100% do a shift on how you create those stingers. I would love to see your process for it.
That'd be fun.
Yeah,
that could be a fun one. About doing more like kind of video and image creation topics. That would be a great one. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And especially we have like lots of people that we know as other marketers and creators who are doing video shows, video podcasts, and like little graphical transitions like that can make your show feel so much more professional.
Yeah. or in my case, maybe less.
No way, man. Honestly, I love seeing the stingers. I love it. You were on this stretch of heaters where you were putting out a new, awesome, different one every week or every 2 days or however long is between our shows.
Maybe awesome. Covering it will like re-inspire me to spend some time there again. While we're on the video creation topic, while you were out, which welcome back, by the way, maybe about a week and a half ago, 2 Friday episodes ago, I did one about like creating a TV quality video ad using AI. And we went back to Google Flow using Omni. And it's funny at the end of that, kind of like overlooked in that was like, okay, you've generated all of your assets. Now you've got to edit this piece together. And I showed a prompt and an outcome for having Fable 5 in Claude, their newest model, assemble the video, like play video editor and put it all together. And literally just while we were sitting here talking about starting this show today, I was doing another test. We had this video for Aweber's AI page builder that's launched 100% to customers now. And I created this video, recorded the pieces, and then I edited it because it's like in my wheelhouse, it's my default like to cut it together. And then I was talking to you earlier this morning and I was like, I'm going to test Fable 5. It just gave me the output while we were getting ready to start this show. It's like virtually identical to what I spent time editing. And it wasn't like a laborious edit, but I mean, I literally just gave it, I was like, here's the script. I gave it like no direction either. I was like, here's the script, here's the talking head video, here's the screen recording video, here's the voiceover, and here's the music bed that I selected. Cut this together based on the script. It was like the entire prompt. And it gave me almost the exact same video. It even like, I had multiple takes. It even like picked a take.
That's wild.
For each line or piece of the script or whatever. So maybe I'll share that at some point too. But it going back to that episode, like don't sleep on that assembly part. Cause I think that was kind of like an unlock, I think, for a lot of people where it's like, great, I've got this stuff, but I don't edit video. Like now what do I do with it? That has changed.
Yeah, that's so cool. That in and of itself could be an episode. Cause I remember when I think it was when Fable dropped, one of the Anthropic team members put together their product launch video doing something similar. They just had a bunch of clips in a folder and they had a script and they were basically like, assemble this. And then I think they even did things like color grading and stuff.
100%. It handled color grading. And he even for like graphic treatments, even then he connected it with Figma. It created a Figma project to create the graphic treatments, which he then shared with his design team. They provided feedback and edits, and it pulled it back in and assembled it.
That's so
So it was
cool.
like his was like even more complex, but it was incredible. That's where the idea initially came from. So yeah, we'll cover that some more. We'll get something to pull together around just kind of that assembly piece of creating video content. Because maybe you're sitting there going, I have no problem recording myself, or I've got a bunch of stuff, but I don't really know how to clean it up or make it, useful or professional or on brand or whatever. That'll unlock that. But today, that's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about Blaze AI. As you mentioned in the open, over 11,000 monthly searches, just in the US alone. And so I've been dancing around Blaze. I checked it out first, maybe like a year ago. And I was like, all right, I don't know. It doesn't really fit my stack, my needs, but we've never talked about it. We've never demoed it. So I figured today, if anyone in our audience has a question about it, maybe this will answer it, the pros and cons of the tool, right? So let's jump right on in. All right. So Blaze AI, literally Blaze.ai, is the tool that we're going to look at today. And its claim is that it's essentially your marketing team. It's going to create complete marketing campaigns for like email, blogs, social. I believe it'll even connect for like paid ads, or at least produce assets for paid ads, although I didn't test that in the campaign today. So I'm going to jump right into the account that I already created, because it's boring to watch somebody create an account. And we're on this page where we're going to create a workspace. Okay. So I'm going to name this one, you guessed it, Dinky. And we're going to create the workspace. Let me try and zoom in a little bit here for everybody. And the first thing it's going to ask me, very simple. What's your website? We'll handle the rest. So I'm going to give it dinky.com. Really wish I knew this business owner to ask permission, because we keep using it so heavily. But I'm kidding. It's Chris. So it's going to scan the website, and it's basically building a brand profile, or a brand, like a style guide, a brand guide. So it's pulling colors, typography, messaging, frankly, just what your business is about, what you sell or provide. And first pass, when I tested this yesterday, did a pretty solid job of understanding it. And we'll see that. I have a pre-baked one, but I really want to show this live as much as possible. So as long as we don't get hung up on anything here, I'm going to let it do its work. As always, we're going to test this against essentially like the cobbled together tools that you already have access to, like Claude and ChatGPT, after we see Blaze's result. So there will be a quite literally mega prompt in the mega prompt doc, which I just dropped in the chat, that we'll use a little bit later. So just keep an eye on that.
Okay, cool.
So it has pulled together a bunch of information. It recognizes that Dinky sells products. Its core identity, Dinky is a modern pickleball equipment brand founded by enthusiasts Chris and Chris in June 2023, offering high-performance paddles that blend style with functionality, designed to enhance the pickleball experience for everyday players. Now, you can edit that if that's not 100% accurate. I think it's...
that is pretty good.
Yeah,
good enough.
Would you use that for these purposes anyway? It's not like blatantly false, right?
No.
It pulled the logo successfully.
Nice.
Who we're speaking to. It says 18 to 54, all genders. What would you change there? Is that?
Actually, I think that's a pretty good grouping there. A good demographic range.
We're going to stick to in the United States. Who appears in content? 25 to 34, all genders, multicultural, diverse group. So it's very specific about like the types of marketing materials. And
that's really neat.
You could change that if you wanted to. Well, I guess it does. It's interesting. It does have, can you see this drop down?
Yes. Yeah.
Right? It does kind of limit. It's single select, and it's really 9-year bracket, 10-year brackets. So
that is
something like pickleball that has such mass appeal. Like literally you're speaking to 18 to 54, but we can only visually present.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
But I think, can you use, select multiple groups though, right? Wasn't that a multi-select there? Or
No, see, it wasn't. It
oh,
only lets
interesting.
me select a
Shoot.
single group. That's kind of surprising. We'll go with 35 to 44.
Yeah, and I'm guessing they use that for generating imagery, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. Not a deal breaker to me, but kind of interesting that it's I wonder what the thinking is behind that. But
Yeah,
anyway,
I'm curious.
and then it has your primary positioning pulled from your site and your messaging.
Yeah, that works
Unleash
fine. It
your
just pulled that
potential,
right off the
meets performance. Yeah, it's verbatim, right? Elevate your game on and off the court. All right, so we're gonna say looks good, and we're gonna move forward. Now it's gonna ask us what we want to create, or the strategy behind it. So, are we creating lifestyle content? Is it a specific offer and promotion? Is it product education? Is it problem solution? I think let's go with like offer and promotion. We'll highlight like a sale or a discount or something like that for your pickleball paddles. But again, that's just needs based. For whatever you're doing. So now it's going to begin to build out the campaign theme.
Oh, interesting.
It's going to ask us again if like it got that right. So here's the campaign details. Standout, style-driven pickleball gear. The theme is highlighting the intersection of fashion and function. This theme celebrates Dinky's pickleball paddles and apparel as must-haves for those returning to active routines or team leagues.
Yeah.
Late summer energy, motivating new and seasoned players. So I think pretty accurate. Call to action, refresh your gear, express your style, target link, dinky.com. So you could update that if you had like a specific target link. And the reason it's gathering a lot of this information is because it's not just going to hand you the assets and be like, there you go do what you want with them. It's actually, you can connect all of your accounts and actually schedule this stuff to go live at the end of this. So it collects a little bit more than, say, if you were just generating assets. Next, it's going to ask us where we want to produce this stuff. So we've got social feed posts for Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, X, even your Google business profile. You can create stories. Short form video I haven't tested, and I didn't want to get in the weeds on this here, but it's probably worth like a little further investigation on whether or not it's creating anything useful there. I'm not sure what models. Maybe it's worth a quick look up. I'm not sure what models of video generation they use.
I'm super curious about that. Can you add an Instagram story? I would just love to see, like, do they just stretch essentially the content for it, you know?
Yeah, that is interesting. We'll see. And then I have long form. You can do blog, you can do newsletter. So it does attempt to really create like a complete campaign around whatever you're promoting or trying to accomplish at that point. Not just social, not just long form content, but a little bit of both.
Cool. And just Google AI overview says Blaze uses VO3, Google's video.
So not the latest, but more stable video generation model, like the predecessor to Omni, right?
And that could be wrong because that post is from, it's on Blaze's knowledge base, but it's from January.
So entirely possible that they've actually incorporated Omni at this point. You know, let's just click Instagram Reel 2 and see what it produces for us.
Yeah.
We're going to say weekday schedules. You can also choose specific days that you want, and we'll let it go. So it's recommending 3 still images, 1 carousel, 1 short form video, 1 story, a blog post, and an email.
Sure.
Per week, right? Sounds great. So we're going to start with this amount. I'm not, you could obviously select. This is a funny one. It chooses a visual. It says choose a visual style for your content. And it's really just like, it's almost just like color correction or like LUTs, to stylize the visual. I don't know. Do you see like a lot of difference?
Well, so like, I love the
marketing schmoozy to me. Like, I don't see the real value.
I actually disagree because like we're with our builder, we're facing this challenge that every other builder is facing. And that is, if you don't give it explicit direction on aesthetic, it's going to produce something that is like the least common denominator of all the aesthetics it knows.
Yes.
So this, like, giving people a choice gives Blaze the ability to put like
very specific
direction
very specific
on the distinct, which should make it more distinctive, because otherwise like everybody's images more or less are going to look the same, unless you give people the ability to choose from, because I expect that this is just like sub prompts
Yeah.
under the hood, that like when
Yeah.
I select high bloom, it includes some direction on what high bloom means when it's doing image generation.
That's a really good point. As a user, to me, this felt like silly, unnecessary interaction, but it's really just a friendly UI put on top of like specific prompt inputs.
Yeah.
Once
And I actually kind of like the before
That's
after framing, which is, it's kind of a cool way to see like how
it is
does
kind of
one
neat. You
differ
can
from the
actually-
other.
Yeah, and because some of it's even like the type of angle that it produces the shots at. Like, do you want like a low dramatic angle? Do you want like a high, like, so some of it is, it's not just color correction. I shouldn't have said that. Some of it is really the way that it frames or positions as well. So you're right, that it attached to all of this is a very specific prompt that it's going to give in the asset creation.
Yeah. Like, which one looks coolest? Did you I wasn't paying good enough attention while you
Dramatic
were...
Lux is like a higher, more like harder shadows. But I don't think that would necessarily match yours. I could see like doing like Amber Glow's not quite what I want. I want like kind of like that golden hour, because you know, like you even called yours out. So maybe we try that one. Cool. It does have that option. I don't know that I think its example feels like super golden hour to me.
Oh, it has like a Italian villa type feel.
Yeah, it does. You know what? Okay, so Italian villa at golden hour. All right, there. We've all seen, what was that? Under the Tuscan Sun. What was that old band? We all watched that movie 3 decades ago, right? Just me. Okay. I knew we were going to get a Diane Lane reference in this show eventually.
That's always your goal, man.
I swear it hasn't been. All right, we'll go with golden hour, because I do kind of want that, like even called out in your brand. It's like that late summer, you know, you're out there playing into the summer evening. I don't know. That's like probably the vibe I want. So we'll go with that.
I'm excited to see this.
And then you can choose your typeface treatment. They give you some examples, and these don't, it's interesting to me, because part of me was like, couldn't they have just pulled like typefaces from your website and been like, this is what you use? It didn't, which is interesting to me. I'm sure there's some logic behind it. They give you some
licensing. Maybe they're worried about licensing conflicts. Yeah,
true. And I'm sure they're using like a more public library of fonts, and so they may just, they know their own limitations, so they're not going to try to pull in what you have if they can't use it or match it. I think let's go with Galano Grotesque.
This might be a dumb question, but like, say you set up this workspace, and then I go to create another campaign or something like that. Oh, because I guess this is going to generate content for me every week according to what I've set.
To what we're setting.
Okay, cool.
You could create a new workspace, but typically that would be for like, I would say you would do that for either a very different offer within your brand or like a different brand.
Gotcha.
The way I've been segmenting them, and maybe I'm wrong in this, has been like different brands, different workspace. And then if I really had a different, I mean, you can create new campaigns within that workspace. So I got to believe that it would
gotcha.
Some of what you know.
I think that's like, that was getting to my question. Sorry, I should have not just trailed off. Like, do I have to go through this whole visual setup process every time? Like, say I want to make another campaign for promoting a 10% off offer,
right,
which would fit under the rest of this. Do I have to go and set like my image style and my typography and stuff all over again, or?
I think that's a really good question, and we should answer it after we create this. We should try a new one and see if it borrows. Because no, I mean, I love that question, and honestly, I'm not positive. I'm not sure, because I would love to not have to answer all of that, and not just because of the time savings, but like think about like consistency. Like,
it's like I don't want to have to remember which font that I had no idea.
Yeah. Dang it, I used Knockout this time. I used Galano Grotesque last time. I wish I'd remembered that. Some of it's about brand consistency too. So I'm hopeful that the answer is yes, it leverages your answers, but we'll find out. And then this is like for the prompting, but you know, how dramatically can how dramatically can you change your images that it's going to pull from your website? And we're going to say, do what you want, right? But you can be more restrictive, especially if you have like really quality intentional images on your site and you really just want it to use those and maintain those. You can tell it to be super strict,
smart,
or anywhere in between. Really smart. I will say I do like that it gave 4 options there. I feel like with so many of these tools, like when we were doing like the voice generation stuff, like in 11 Labs and Noise, it's like a sliding toggle. And I'm like, I'm never really sure like where I want to be on that toggle. You know what I mean? Like it's a little opaque. So I do like that they gave kind of like 4 steps of like from total freedom to strict and 2 in between. Cause I feel like I get a better idea of what it wants to do.
Yeah.
Okay. So then it gave, it pulled in some imagery from your website that it's going to use as source material for your assets, both the video, the everything, the email. I'm not going to get too crazy about this, but you can go in and make some changes if you don't love what it shows. We're just going to see what it does. We're not going to add any more source materials, but you do have the option of providing it additional guidelines, reference docs. So there is, it is putting together a fairly complex prompt and direction to produce this stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm hopeful that the outcome reflects that, and it's not just a lot of input for pretty average output.
Yeah, it has been a lot of input, honestly. Like,
it's been a ton of input, right?
Yeah, because like if I were actually being thoughtful about this, I would have wanted to review all of those, like basically every field we've looked at, like that previous page where it showed like the inspiration image and then the content thing, like just looking at the first 3. 2 out of the 3 of them I would have wanted to change dramatically.
Sure.
One, because it was referencing a value proposition that didn't go with the image that it had used.
Yes. And that's a fair caveat too, because when we judge the output here, we might need to acknowledge like, hey, we didn't really give it great direction. It asked us and we were like, it's fine. And so now it's starting on that first 1-week campaign, and this is actually going to produce assets for a 4-week campaign. And cool. Each week it's producing, those 3 static, the 1 carousel, the 1 video, the email, the blog post, and producing all that content for you. Now I will judge, like when it comes to like the writing, I don't know, we should look at that. Is it really writing in your voice? Now you do have the option of providing additional brand guidelines that can be voice guidelines as a part of that. So like every AI tool we've covered, like the more you give it, the better the result usually.
It's kind of cool. So Jesse and I work at Aweber together, and our CEO, he shared, I can't remember who wrote it initially, but he was writing about this concept of being a meat proxy, which is a gross term for really
it caught my attention, so it did its job, but I hate that term.
Yeah, it's disgusting. But like the idea of it is, if you're just taking whatever you get back from AI and regurgitating it without thinking about it, evaluating it, editing it, whatever, you're essentially an organic proxy for the LLM. You're just saying what it said and offering no additional value. And that's a bad thing. And the same is true for when you're directing AI. This is something like that we talk about a lot, is like the process we just went through was just for demo purposes to show that the way that it worked. But what you should be doing if you really care about the output sounding like you and connecting with other people is reviewing each of those fields and using your expertise, your humanity, and your creativity to make all of those inputs better. And then I guarantee we would have gotten better outputs than we get, no matter how good these outputs are. If we had spent a little more time like making sure things were right and putting our own soul into it, we'd get better results.
Yeah, and that's why like my judgment of this is like, is the fidelity good? Is it creating like essentially like unusable assets? People with 3 arms, things like that. Like if it's running up against those things where it just can't produce quality, then I have an issue. If it's like, well, that's not quite on brand, that's input. That's on us. And we probably spent 10 to 15 minutes just queuing up this campaign. I didn't want to spend 30 minutes making people watch us tweak those. But if that's the gap, then to me, it's, hey, go out there and try it and be really specific about your inputs.
Yeah.
It's already, so on that point, some interesting stuff.
Woof.
I'm not sure what happened to your paddle shape there.
Maybe I shouldn't have let it go off as much as I did. So
we did give it total creative freedom, right?
Can you click into the story? I'm really interested to see how if it modified the design of that t-shirt, or like if it dramatically did. No, it did a really good job of keeping the actual graphical fidelity of that t-shirt design. And that design has a lot of text in it. It has a lot of weird shapes. It did a good job.
It's borderline usable. I will say, like, with a lot of this, like, I don't know the original, you'd have to speak to it, but it says something league at the very bottom of it.
Yeah, and it says Summer League at the bottom of it on the actual shirt.
Yeah, summer got garbled.
Oh yeah.
But like all fun and games, the Dinky logo,
Mm-hmm.
pickleball club at the top is almost right. So like with a lot of image generation, text is still a bit of a mystery to it. Often,
Yeah.
you know. Oh, there you go. Dave just gave the reference of where that, not going to say term, came from. Nicholas Gruen. So yeah, but I mean, like, look, you could be more specific about what images you want to use. If you don't, we could lower the creative freedom so that it's not recreating that shirt to that degree, and maybe it maintains the fidelity a little bit better. But like from a aesthetic perspective, like this is quality. Like if I really want to pull it apart, like, is this going to make me stop and pause? I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe if I'm like high intent, really into pickleball, if I'm like my current level, which is when I've played, I really enjoy it, but it's only happened a handful of times. I don't know if I'm stopping for that. Right?
Yeah. I think like the thing that it's missing is any sort of perspective, like, and maybe you could improve this by giving better direction inside Blaze AI, but right now it's just like, it's just boring.
Yeah.
I think boring is the best way to describe it. It's like, it could be anything. It could be an ad for anything.
This could be a mental health app. It could be a dating app. It could be pickleball. And I will caution, like, so you can go in and make some edits, and that's cool. So you can change like text and things like that. You can reposition some stuff. Shout out to like the Canva model. Like, I do like that this is not a single layered output where I have to regenerate the whole thing if I want to make changes. It is editable. That's pretty rad to me. It doesn't solve the kind of vanilla aspect of it. And I would still watch out for a lot of the image generation. Now, if we had been stricter on its creative freedom with the image generation, I think we would have probably gotten a more usable result. But like, there are perspective issues. Like, she's sitting on the court and is like fully eye level with him on the bench.
Yeah.
That's a little like skewed and off. Now, it took me a while to notice that, so maybe it's less of an issue for some. As you can see here in our email, it took a very interesting.
Yeah, that's incredible.
I'm pretty sure you don't sell pickleball paddles in that shape, but hey, what do I know?
And like the thing, just reading through the cursory read of this email, it also is just like, again, just boring. It's just boring. There's no real opinion in it,
So at AWeber, we have a newsletter assistant, and like, it takes a lot of sources and additional input. I mean, it does a great job off of the public sources that it can have, like your website, your past emails, your blog posts, things like that. In learning your voice, learning your content, learning how you write, you can make it that much better by giving it further instruction about words to use, phrases used, tones, things like that.
Yeah.
This, even if I gave it like a pretty complex voice document, like, I don't know that it has quite the configurability of some other things like that in the market. So I'm not sure that I would be comfortable having it produce my emails or maybe my blog posts. But again, that's an everybody decision, each person decision. Here's the video. Let's see what it gave us here. Yeah. I don't hate it.
Yeah.
At least there's some movement to grab some attention. It doesn't really break anything for me.
Yeah. It's funny though, like, just thinking about the content value of it. It's basically like why bother to make this exist? I mean, so like we're in this
Yeah,
world where
yeah.
anyone could create anything. So there's so much more stuff. I think I was reading recently that like more than 50% of the web's traffic comes from bots and agents now. And soon, like there's no reason to think that eventually it won't be 90%, you know?
Mhm.
So like the value of things that actually mean something and have the potential to stand out, I think is just going to get more and more important. So like this is a little bit of a tangent, but Claude just announced last week that they're going to be adding watermarking to the content generated from their models,
Yes.
which is I think that's a good thing,
Yeah.
because the way they're doing it is interesting. We'll have to see if it actually degrades content. They're saying that they don't think it should be perceivable to humans. I'm a little skeptical of that, but in terms of the quality of the content. But I think it's interesting and something that really needs to be done, because otherwise we're going to end up with this dead internet full of slop.
Mhm.
Because too many people are defaulting to being meat proxies and just asking for content and then putting it right out there without adding any sort of their own perspective to it, either in the initial prompt or editing what they got back. And I think it's true when we're looking at this stuff as well. Like my gut reaction as a designer to this is I wouldn't use any of this.
Mm.
Like this is just it makes me
No.
it would make me feel bad about my brand. You know,
And
I care about these paddles and I spent time designing them, you know?
right, you're passionate about it. You don't want to just put out something that falls so I had a conversation actually earlier this morning with Rich Brooks, who's gonna come on the show in a few weeks. And he was talking about like AI kind of elevated everyone's ability. So like people who couldn't do this stuff can now do this stuff. Or couldn't do what you do for your business or in your space can now do that. If you harness it right, it also elevates you to still stand out above them. But if you
Mhm.
just choose to adopt what they're doing, it just lowers you into kind of their vanilla layer
Yeah.
of content or whatever. Um, so yeah, so what's interesting, and look, this is not my final verdict on Blaze because as you saw, there were a lot of choices during that kind of input stage,
Yeah.
and I would probably want a few more hours to really just push it on like how specific I could be, maybe less image creativity, or maybe um, telling it, the visual style, forcing it to push further, and maybe
Yeah.
what did you say in the one, make it pop,
Well,
you
one of the
know,
things I'm interested in is like if I gave it some examples of things that I had designed in that last step where you could add additional stuff, like
yeah,
would it create better content if I gave it examples of content that I really liked that were my visual style? Like I
yes.
gave it all of my concept sketches, I gave it the ads that I had manually made previously. Would it do a better job at creating something that I felt better about? I don't know the answer,
And
but
I've got to believe it will, because I mean, look, I don't know what proprietary models they use. I know some of this, like Veo for the or Omni or whatever Google model for the video stuff, are third party models that
hmm,
at some point all of these packaged tools like this are kind of using a lot of the same models at the end of the day, unless they have a proprietary model like we established, like 11 Labs uses their own model for the voice generation.
yeah,
But I got to think a platform like this is probably leveraging a lot of the same models. So like, yes, better inputs, better source, better direction. I want to believe could produce better results.
yeah,
I'm not going to sit and test for 2 hours in front of everybody today, but I will say I do think one of the true benefits too is like you can go in and review it once you approve stuff. And if you have your accounts connected, you can single click schedule.
that's
And
cool.
so the
Yeah,
time savings to me of creating consistent on brand campaigns across channels from a single source and being able to schedule them out without ever leaving this platform. You're never downloading an image, you're never copying and pasting text. I love that aspect of it. I
yeah.
do. I want it to be useful to me, but I wholly agree with what you're saying. I would need to find a way to up the visual output.
Okay, cool.
The visual creative is just flat to me, and I think we're seeing a lot of the same. Like, um, Yeah, meh, vanilla. Dave said, I'd value this if I considered Walmart my favorite place to shop. I'm confused. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, but like I do understand the service it provides, right?
Yeah.
We would need to push the outputs a little bit better.
Yeah. I think I might bang on this and see like if I can get it creating something that I'd be happy.
Bring that back.
Yeah.
I'd love to see that.
Because honestly, like I'm a little skeptical. The more I mess with these visual tools, and I know we have our demo in Claude or ChatGPT that you're going to run through to compare.
It's all right.
But the more I use these tools, the more I'm convinced that in most cases, it is truly most useful as an augmentation to you as a human and not as a truly standalone agent for creative cases. You know, like for coding, we use it, and maybe that'll change. But for coding, we at AWeber, we use AI all the time for functional things that it does, and for simple things, it's really good. But even with coding, the more expert you are as a person, as a programmer, or whatever, the like exponentially more useful these tools are for you. Like our skilled engineers are able to use these coding tools to do so much more than I can. And I think the same is true for creative people. Like you can use these tools like you were just saying, Jesse, but like when you use it as another tool of yours and not as a replacement for your creative skills, that's when they're really useful.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's a theme that's come back a lot throughout the show. Like, where do I plug AI into my process? One, maybe for rote tasks that you don't want to have to do anymore, to kind of unlock bandwidth and freedom to focus on what you need to. And two, to, maybe enhance skills that otherwise aren't there, but not to replace the things that you do well and that make you and your business you.
Yeah.
That's that lowering into the layer of vanilla content if you choose to let yourself be replaced in it.
Yeah.
So I mentioned earlier there's this mega prompt in the mega prompt doc, which is in the chat there. And it's essentially going to try to replace that. What it's doing, and I actually have it running here in Claude already. I filled in a little bit of business information about Dinky in the beginning of it, but basically it's telling it to create this same campaign. And what it's also doing, and this is where it's a little bit more piecemeal, obviously, it is going to write the copy for the social posts and for the email and the blog post. It's also going to write specific prompts to give to ChatGPT Images 2.0 to generate the assets. And we'll try one of them. I'm not going to go deep into it. But we'll see like how we feel in terms of like, if one process, like I suspect the answer is this is going to be a bit more piecemeal. And I don't know that the outputs are going to be like vastly different. I think they both will just require a lot more human taste in terms of the direction that you're giving them. We talked about that too, where like part of what this has done is it's made every single one of us a creative director to some degree that can direct a team of creatives in terms of the visuals that we produce. Okay, so it's written the posts, the carousel content, all of that. And it's got some image prompts in here for me too. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll take the image prompt for this first post that is for our paddles. And I'm just going to give that to ChatGPT, have it create the image, and we'll let that run for a second. As always with every one of these demos we do, especially when there's like an output or whatever, if y'all try this, we would love to hear what you thought of it, where it succeeded, where it failed. Share the outputs that you got. If you were like, you figured out how to unlock quality outputs, please share that with us. I'm all ears. And yeah, like, I don't know, the verdict for me is kind of like, there's potential here. I definitely see the time saving in terms of that kind of, the process and the holistic nature of it and not having to leave it a single platform. But man, we've got to up the output. I don't know. I mean, is that okay? The prompt didn't give it like text overlay direction.
Yeah, or my product. Like that's a benefit of
Yeah,
both.
we didn't pull in product. We probably should have given it a paddle image to
Yeah.
use, been explicit about that.
Yeah, it is funny. Like, even with all of my complaints about Blaze, just the fact that it's all in one spot and it
Yeah,
connects
that's
the
the
dots
value,
for you.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think the reality is like if you can tweak those inputs, it's going to be more restrictive than like a prompt you can give ChatGPT, because that you can just sky's the limit, whatever you want
Yeah.
to describe, right? They're giving you specific controls, and self-limiting controls. Like I think by design or as a result of trying to simplify how you give that direction. But if you can tweak those right, yeah, the value of all in one place makes sense to me.
Yeah.
But as with any platform, whatever you're going to use, if it's not usable at the end, it's worthless. So we would definitely need to up that a little bit.
For sure.
That said, you could do the Claude to ChatGPT. It's just going to take a little bit more time, and frankly, could be free. So, Blaze, I want to say it's around like 60 something a month to start. You can trial it though. I would definitely make my goal of before this trial and finishes, I want to produce campaign assets for one campaign that I would be like, yep, I'm 100% using these. Otherwise, I wouldn't probably go any further. All right. Do we miss any questions or anything? Or anybody's specific feedback describing it as relatively vanilla?
No, I think that was the consensus. But if anybody tries it and you get it to generate something you're really proud of, I would love to see what you came up with and how you did it.
Yeah. And with all of these past episodes, like if you've been generating stuff or creating stuff with some of the things we've covered, shout out to Erica, who sent a video that she generated while watching the episode a couple of Fridays ago about creating a video ad. Please keep that stuff coming. It helps us, see where we can help, and obviously it's exciting to see the stuff that you're producing with it. All right, I don't have anything else. Anything else, Chris? I ran us a little long, so I think we should let everybody get out of here. Yeah.
No, that was interesting. It was fun.
All right, y'all. Well, thank you for being here. As always, go to aweber.com/shift. You can sign up for the newsletter and send us your questions. And we will be back Friday with a brand new topic at 12 p.m. Eastern time.